All right, good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, August 26th, right after 7:30. You're here for episode 18 of What's on the Line, the What's on the Line podcast with CCA Maryland. My name is David Sikorsky, the executive director of CCA Maryland, and your host for the What's on the Line podcast. So as you saw, as we introed here, we're talking with Travis Long and LJ from G-EYE Jigs about Redfish and some guided trips that they're now partnered up to offer in the Middle Bay and Lower Bay. Because it's redfish season for sure. Late August here, we have the big bulls up in the bay. I know they're being caught all over the place, and a lot of Spanish mackerel, bluefish, and everything else. But I haven't been on the bay in too long, so I'll let those guys talk about that in a minute. I did want to make you aware of a couple events that we have coming up. I know the world's still a mess with protocols and what's right, what's wrong with all this stuff dealing with the coronavirus. And events are a big part of what we do. We've been great in being able to do some virtual events, and thanks to the support of great CCA members and supporters. Really no complaints. We all want to get back together when we can. So we do have a few events lined up this fall. And the first I want to talk about is the For the Bay Golf Tournament. So if you check out our website, ccamd.org, if you go right to the /golf section, it'll take you right to the golf page. But also just go to our homepage here and scroll down. You can find out about a lot of the things we're doing. Even check out past episodes of the What's on the Line podcast. But here's the For the Bay Golf Tournament. And if you go to that URL at the bottom, it'll take you to this page. And it's pretty simple. It explains the details. It's at Rocky Point Golf Course in Essex. It's a Thursday afternoon, so a perfect chance to get in there and do some work, or even go fishing in the morning and come play golf in the afternoon and support conservation. But ultimately, you can participate. It explains all right here. The typical tournament, it's a scramble. Get a foursome of friends. Come on out. Have some fun. We'll start check-in just before lunch. You'll get a lunch. You'll hit the links. Get your carts for a shotgun start at 1 o'clock. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've also we've already got some great sponsors coming in. So folks should check that out. It's a simple registration form right here. And then we see you on September 16th. There's also some great sponsorships available. That include participation in the tournament. Again, you saw some of our sponsors right there. So there's some others available, and you can click on any of these and then fill out a form to go ahead and sponsor us right down here below. And so if you have any questions about this event, there's contact information on those pages. We hope to see you out there on September 16th. Now, before that, we have the Red Trout Tournament. So this is a tournament, red trout. No, that's not a special kind of fish. It's redfish and speckled trout. And this tournament's all about focusing on them. It was founded in Crisfield, 8 years ago now, I think. And we've moved it over to Buzz's Marina. Unfortunately, the event was canceled last year because of weather, multiple weekends in a row. But we're back this year. So check all that out here. It's a very similar page. Explains to you how to participate. And some great divisions. Here's a really cool one I want to highlight, and I think we're going to talk about JLS rods here a little bit later. The top redfish and trout caught by a lady angler in this tournament without extra entries, right? This is just a bonus division for lady anglers only. So top redfish and top trout will win a JLS rod. So 2 JLS rods there. We've got a free youth division. We've got fly division, open, which is pretty much just pursuing everything. Gift cards to All Tackle, our presenting sponsor this year, for all the different divisions. And we'll add on some things as well. Eric Packard and I were talking on a recent podcast, and he actually just painted a ribbon fish, custom canvas art of a ribbon fish, given all those that are being caught this year. So we're going to do a little Calcutta where you get some artwork if you catch the biggest ribbon fish. Also, I want to show you this great idea, which is actually an idea that was kind of planted in our tournament committee by Travis Long. The redfish are here. They're here to be caught. So if you register for this tournament today, because right now, go register. You go fishing tomorrow and you enter the redfish or trout you catch between now and when the tournament starts. You get entered to win drawings. So we have 2 more drawings left the next 2 Mondays. And then we wipe the slate clean. And so everybody competes with each other on September 11th and 12th in the 2-day tournament. But you should be registered for this if you're going fishing right now. We just ordered custom angle tumblers for this event. So rather than T-shirts, everybody's going to get a 30-ounce tumbler, stainless steel tumbler with their registration. You can also renew your membership with registration as well. And again, plenty of sponsorships left. Again, this is just over 2 weeks from now at Buzz's Marina. And you can fish anywhere from the Bay Bridge down to a line in Virginia that's explained in the rules. It's just north of Cape Charles. The idea was really to target those state line fish and then kind of equal distance in each direction, north to south from Buzz's Marina. So there's a lot of flexibility. You don't have to be at the event in person. We understand that people may not want to gather yet. We understand that, respect that. So we'll send out a survey to see who's going to be there, because with your entry fee, you also have a entry to our Saturday night party at Buzz's Marina. So that's Red Trout. And without further ado, I want to bring in our folks we're talking with tonight. Oops, I forgot to put up the site for Red Trout. There it is. And again, right on our homepage. But without further ado, LJ.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Welcome. I said it would only take a couple minutes for my intro, and every time I say a couple, it should be double that. So be it.
Oh, it's great. Thanks for having us, Dave. This is so exciting. You know, I'm really glad to be here. I love your podcast. Been listening to you for years, and you really put out some really informative information about what's going on in the Bay, and you do such a great job with the CCA. Just appreciate you. That's all I can say. Thanks.
Hey man, I couldn't do it without members like you guys and companies that support us, and we're all in it together. And
absolutely.
I'm happy to do the work I can every day, because I couldn't do it without great partners and sponsors. And we all have a responsibility to the resource. And there's no question in fisheries and just life these days, it's hard to find out what's fact, what's fiction, what's
right. Everything's so instant. It's like. Here, like, oh yeah, look at my picture, like, and then they fake it, or something. I get it.
The internet has unleashed a very complicated world amongst us, but I'll tell you, some of my best friends I've met online. And how did you guys meet?
Oh man, you remember Travis?
Yeah. So I was getting back into fishing. I fished my whole life with my dad. My dad and his grandfather and his father fished at Point Lookout in South Solomon, Southern Maryland area, when I was a kid. And, when I went to college, got my job, I kind of drifted away for a little bit. And then once I had the resources to purchase a boat, I got back into it, and I did what everyone did in Chesapeake Beach. I tried to be a miniature charter boat, got all my trolling rods and all of that. And then, I walked to a tackle shop one day, and it was LJ was there.
Tyler's Tackle.
And he was trying to, I was asking him, what I needed. And, he was showing me like, purple lures. And
I told you, what impressed me about you was I said, ABCD, and go over there in the Chop Tank River and hit 21 feet of water. And Travis they didn't have everything at Tyler's Tackle Shop that he needed. So he went online, he got everything. And the next weekend I was there doing one of their shows. And then Travis comes in, he goes, LJ, man, it worked out great. And I was like, because rarely does somebody, when you give them information, do it, right? And he did it, and he was successful. And then, it just made my day to see him be happy, take his family out fishing, his friends, and then catch fish. And that started it right there.
Mm-hmm. So Travis, you're a native Marylander, right?
Yeah.
So fishing's in your blood, and that's cool to hear. How you bumped into LJ. LJ, how'd you end up there at that tackle shop that day? Not the whole story, but
so Georgie owns Tyler Tackle Shop, right? And one winter he goes, "Hey LJ, can you help me out with these shows this winter? Because Tyler's did all the shows, every show. It was a lot. And he needed some help. And he goes, I'll tell you what, I'll let you sell those silly jigs you make, and you keep the money. I said, man, that's a great way to promote my charter fishing business. Man, I can't wait to do this. So I did that with him all winter, right? All the shows from Frederick on down to Solomon's, man. We did them all, right? And, I couldn't make enough jig heads for each show. It was crazy. And at the time, I was working as an IT person. I started my own business after I got out of the Army. And I'd be silly if I don't get a patent and a trademark on my stuff. So I applied, got a patent on my jig heads, got a trademark on my name. And that's how it all got started, And the next thing I know, I'm like, hey, I'm running charters. I don't have time to run charters. I got to make all these jigs. It just switched. I'm like, what? And I think the bottom line is, I'd say this, I give a piece of advice to anybody that wants to start their own business. Okay. If you want to do something to start your own business, first of all, enjoy it. Okay. Secondly, fix your problem. And when you fix your problem, it turns out that you fix a whole bunch of other people's problems. And then next thing you know, it just starts following you around, right?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I know when I go down to North Carolina to a lot of well-known tackle shops and I buy a jig, we've all been there where you buy the jig and you're sitting there poking through the eyelet so you can put your line through the hook. And in our area, it's not just LJ. You know, we have a lot of people who are dedicated and make a lot of fishing
they make
products.
good stuff.
So we're lucky in our area that there's
100%.
a lot of people who fill our niche of,
right.
you know, the light tackle community. And it's nice to see those, you know, there's all those products out there. Because if you go before that, it was tough, like to buy a jig head, like, you know, the paint was all over the eyelet. So, you know,
the eyes fall out on the first
way.
cast, you know. I mean, they were made in China, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and yeah, they're all the same. Like, I won't name all the brands, but I'll never forget. I fished with a buddy down in Lynnhaven Inlet. We were catching puppy drum, you know, little redfish in the lights, and we kept bending these jig heads I had. And then I had this one with a, you know, whatever it is, nickel plated, the harder mustad hook or whatever. Yeah. And it was like a 1/4 ounce jig head, I think, and a long shank hook. It was totally odd. It looked like nothing anybody would ever put together. And he's like, "Where did you get that? I need more." And I remember I went wherever I got it. I remembered, and I shipped him a couple dozen of these jig heads down because he couldn't get them. And it's honestly, I think the Chesapeake, especially in Maryland, I mean, there's tons of great lure manufacturers and folks throughout the country, but we do have a pretty cool little group of them here in Maryland.
We do. We really do. There's some great family businesses here that make custom fishing tackle, and they're all, I know them all, and they're just wonderful people. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we're talking about G-EYE Jigs. I'm going to pull up the website here, because you can also find out about how you can go fishing with Travis and Teacher's Pet Fishing right here. Reserve fishing guide trip. And here you go. There's a little bit of the story about how you guys met right there. And so you can reserve, put your deposit in here on the website.
Yeah, it's just $25. I mean, it's no big deal. Just to reserve your day. That's all that is.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And they can do it right online. And then
it's real quick and easy. So if you get your friends together and you know what you want to do, you want it, your family, you know, and then you can grab a date that's available. Travis is not available all the time. He's a full-time school teacher in Prince George's County. And I got
a son too who plays travel hockey.
So we put the dates up as much as we can. And, you know, I'm out there, you know, 3-4 days a week. I'm fishing. Like, I know I make a lot of jigs, but I got some help. My daughter-in-law, Megan, and my son, Brandon, they're doing a great work doing that wholesale side and all that stuff. So we're still getting product out, but you know, it's I can't, just to say this, I can't do the charter fishing and do the business at the same time. And Travis is a great angler, so I'm able to get out there, fish now. I can give him information about what's happening currently, and then next thing I know, he's running a couple of days in a row, and he can tell me what's happening. So it's a nice, really tight network between the two of us. So it's good information there.
Well, and if folks can look on the screen and see all the different locations where people can buy G-EYE Jig area. I mean, I don't care where you live in Maryland. It looks like we've got pretty much everywhere near the bay covered. So shop local and supporting a local tackle shop and a local homegrown tackle.
Absolutely. Business. Eastern Shore, Western Shore, we're all good. And even up there in New Jersey. So Tack Waterman.
Love it.
Those guys are great. They're all great, but still.
Absolutely. Well, here's the Teacher's Pet Facebook page at Teacher's Pet Fishing. And, you see scrolling along the bottom there, you can find all this information. The Teacher's Pet Facebook, Travis's Instagram for some information there, and then of course booking trips and finding out where to buy G-EYE Jigs or more information on their website. It's all scrolling across the bottom. So Travis, there you are in your what's that, a 26 Judge?
Yeah, that's a Judge. It's a really nice boat to guide on in the bay.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You can fit a lot of anglers on there.
It's real comfortable in rough water. A lot of fishing space in that boat. It's like an ultimate, you know, fishing boat. Frankly, if you got a family and you want to take your friends out and things go to crap out there on you in a minute, you're going to get home just fine and safe.
Yeah, I really enjoy too the trips with families and fathers and sons. We had a trip a while back where we had 2 6-year-olds and a 9-year-old and 3 dads, and they were very good anglers. The children could cast themselves, but a few times when those macks were further away from the boat, the dads would make the long cast and the kids would rip them in. And to see those kids all catch their own macks, it was really neat, because a lot of us adults go out there and try to do that, but to see the kids get that chance, it's nice to see that, get that next generation of anglers. And I know there's a lot of other light tackle guides or people who just have their own boat and get to take people out who've never been on the bay before and share that experience that, we all enjoy. We can preach all day about conservation and, how the resource of the bay is important, but to take people out on the bay and give them a positive experience is, really where it's at.
Well, another thing about that trip that you did with those boys and was that you had actually the rods that fit the children. So not everybody's going to cast a 7-foot, jigging stick or a 6'8" jigging stick. And you had the rods for them. And so they were ripping, dragging with their mackerel and everything. So that was great.
Yeah, I think one of the last trips, I don't know if I put it on my page, but lately when we've been down in the Point Lookout area, we've been giving clients the opportunity to also, tour Smith Island. I kind of paused the time on the trip, and I maybe have a picture or two, but it's been there right in there. There's some of those pictures. You can scroll through a Smith Island, and it's been a really nice experience. So, we made some connections with some of the local businesses over there.
Oh yeah, Drum Point Market, the Smith Island Cake Bakery, and
hold on, time out. What am I looking at right here?
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, that's soft shell sandwich, but so they have so many soft shell crabs on Smith Island. The way they make their sandwich at Drum Point Market,
that's a po' boy,
is they only use the nuggets of the white meat. They don't do the head, the claws, and all that. And
it's all back fin.
I think that sandwich is like $11 or something.
Yeah, it's like $11. It's all back fin white meat from a soft shell crab, and they season it and they fry it up really well. Oh my gosh, this is so good.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Sadly, I've been to the Drum Point Market quite a few times. I think I bought a T-shirt or sweatshirt every time I've gone.
Yeah,
and I can't eat that because I'm allergic to crabs.
No.
And one of the ladies that worked there. I can't remember exactly who it was. We had this long story about how she was allergic as well, and she's a Smith Island native.
Wow.
And yeah. So we had some great conversations about that. But that tomato stands out to me, man. That's American.
Oh man, they're homegrown right on the island. Hey, and when you're in here, tell Missy that I said hi.
I will. Gosh.
Yeah, and then you got the cake from the bakery on the next slide.
There you go. Hey, I got one of them right here on my bar. As a matter of fact, I got a slice of rainbow.
We were at Smith Island many years ago. I took some buddies that were here visiting from North Dakota down deer hunting and fishing. It was deer season. And so we deer hunted, then it happened to be warm out. We were catching rockfish, and we poked our head into Smith Island for lunch one day. And Ida Mae Marshall had been on the CBS This Morning show a couple days prior, and being around the holidays, we went to the store. We said, "Hey, can we get a cake?" And they said, "No, you better stop by our house." And so they gave her a heads up. We were coming over to her house, and she met us in the sidewalk. She said, "Boys, I have 92 cakes in there. Orders for 92 cakes. I'm going to be one busy lady. I can't spare a cake." My good buddy from North Dakota steps up, and he does insurance inspections, so he's always about breaking people down and talking to them and seeing what they're hiding. Mm-hmm. Just a great conversationalist. I mean, they say out there, if you stop by somebody's house, you better sit around for at least a whole pot of coffee. So my buddy Matt starts talking to her. Next thing you know, he's got a cake, and we're off. Well, they end up taking this cake home to North Dakota, and I'm like, they drove back to North Dakota. They drove in, and then they froze it, thawed it out, and had it for I think Christmas or somebody's birthday, and they said it was fantastic. No worse.
There's so much frosting in that it keeps it airtight.
And when you buy those cakes on the island, you'll take them home whole and frozen, and don't even flinch. Those cakes are fantastic. When they thaw out, they're delicious. It's such a treat. It really is. And I tell you what, Dave, every time I go on that island, man, I think that the Brady Bunch lives there. because
Right.
I think like I'm back in my childhood days in the 70s. Like everything is chill, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so calm, relaxing. You just sit there on the porch with the fan blowing on you, and you're eating your lunch, and you're having a soda pop or something. It's just a great experience.
Not to mention the area surrounded by a great, fishery and diversity.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Puppy drums, slot reds, trout.
It's really
rockfish,
one of the secrets
black
nobody's
drum.
tapped into. I can't believe that they're not just so busy over there, frankly.
Well, and you
It's-
guys taking trips from the Western Shore, that's great. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
there's a ton of great local guides down that area that are, will bring folks out for a similar experience for Eastern Shore people that can't drive 4 hours or whatever it is to get around.
Right.
But I was, in fact, I was just at Jay Fleming's office, and the final versions of his new book, Island Life, are coming out. And there's some amazing images of Smith and Tangier in that book, and it might be for sale now. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
That's a Jay Fleming photo right there on the screen.
hey, that's right. Funny and
Yeah. And I think we saw Jay taking pictures last time we went through there.
I thought that was him, but that
It
was
looked
a
like his
different
boat, but
Yeah.
we could be wrong. But it sure looked like Jay over there taking pictures with some people.
Yeah, I'm
by
sure
the
he's been
jetties
doing,
as you come in on the western side of Smith Island.
yeah, he's been doing photo workshops out there. And I actually talked to somebody else last week who went to Smith Island. So I hope a lot of people are heading out there and checking it out. Not too many, but enough.
You're right. Hey, let's keep it a secret.
All right, so let's talk about this Smith Island trip. If you're gonna, what's the day look like for somebody? When do they hop on board? What are your tactics? Where are you heading out and looking for?
So I've been working with people between launch and from Solomon's or Point Lookout based on the weather. We're leaving, usually in the morning, 7 o'clock, maybe 10 if we're going for more of an afternoon bite. It's an all day trip.
It's up to the bite, right?
Weather and bite, if we have thunderstorms in the morning, obviously we might leave at 10 in the morning instead of 7. We'll figure that out the day before. We go out, we try to get on fish early, depending on where we launch. We've been mixing it up with some trout, some mackerel, blues. That's been light tackle. And then we've been looking for drum and cobia, but the cobia bite's just picked up a little bit lately. But the drum bite's been a little more elusive, at least for me and a few other people I talked to this year. It seems like they're a little more spread out than previous years. The exciting thing is there's been opportunities. There's been a lot more, slot drum and puppy drum, and that's something that I think a lot of us behind the scenes were kind of hoping would happen, seeing these drum, but not to digress too far from that. But then usually if the party wants to around lunchtime, it's the hot part of the day. It's 90 degrees. The bite usually slows down a little bit.
It could be slack tide.
We'll take them into Smith Island, go in there for like an hour and a half. If they want to bring a cake home, we'll stop at the cake store. Otherwise, we'll just go for lunch. And then we come back out kind of refreshed, in the afternoon, and we get right back on it. I'll fish, any way that the crew wants to catch fish. So I'm not opposed to, if it gets the job done, to put down, inline planers for a little bit and cool off. Like I know 2 days ago, it was 95 degrees.
No wind.
And it was just horrible.
Brutal.
And for a few seconds, I think for 30 minutes, we put the inline planers out just because we were going to.
It felt good.
Well, we weren't going to survive otherwise. I couldn't see through my sunglasses. It was horrible. And we got, we had two keepers on, and I don't know, I think it was less than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And we brought them back in, and then we started jigging, and we started catching black sea bass and
mackerel. We got some mackerel and some bluefish.
So it was just a lot of variety, a lot of different tactics. Well,
and the other thing that you do, Travis, is that you say hands on, hands off. What's that mean, bro?
Well, I have it's like the little big boat, but it's like, if you want to, even if it comes down to, if we decide to do inline trolling for a little bit, I know it's not light tackle, but, I like to mix it up, with different tactics. I let the clients, run the rods if they want to. They're reeling it in, they're flinging the fish in, they're setting lines, and we don't do it the whole day. It might be 30 minutes of the day. And then, if we locate some jiggable fish, we crank those in real quick.
Right.
I think on the father and son trip, that's what we did. We put the trolling rods out for maybe 30 minutes.
Right.
And then we saw some mackerel crashing, and we ripped those things in and just let them go at it. But I think they enjoyed, getting to do it. Like they weren't just told, here's a rod, reel it in. They were were doing all the action.
Well, the other thing is though, Dave, is like this year, what I've noticed from Solomon's Island, from basically down out of Point Lookout, Smith Island, all the way up to the Chesapeake Beach this year with the Spanish mackerel. Some days they'll be jumping out of the water all around. Like some of these fish they should have jumped in your boat. Seriously, not even exaggerating. And you're casting jigs and you're not buttoning up any of them. Like nothing you could throw out there, not a rain minnow, nothing. I don't care what color, they won't touch it. You put them trolling lines down, put 2 or 4 lines out there, and it's just like they're just popping them. And it goes nuts. And then there's other days that the trollers are running by you, looking at you, throwing rain minnows and jigs, and they're like, I can't get bit.
Yeah. I mean, the one tip too I'll give to people, I see it the most on the boat. There's 2 things I'm noticing with people when they're new to the mackerel fishing, at least with the casting, is you get a really good advantage. You do not need a 5,000 or 4,000 reel for mackerel. It's not necessary, but it gives you a lot of speed on the retrieve, and that's helpful. Especially if you get tired really easy cranking in nonstop. So using that larger reel is helpful for some folks. And also when the fish hits, don't set the hook like a rockfish. Just keep reeling, and that drives that hook home. I notice a lot of people when the fish hits, rod up. They stop. And the fish, I had a hit and I lost it. But if you just keep reeling when the fish hits, usually that hook just drives right in. So.
Absolutely. Because they swim towards the boat a lot of those times. They're swimming right at it.
They're hitting so hard.
They come from behind, And
the
other thing is, like, if you want to get out there on some Spanish mackerels, like these pelagics that we have right now, and I'm talking about the Spanish mackerel, those cobias, you've got to take time off work now. Don't wait. If you get a chance, because 3-4 weeks from now, I think you'll just scratch your forehead and go, "Oh, I missed it." You've got to put things aside, work aside. You've got to get on the water and go experience this while it's here. It's I wouldn't call it a banner year this year.
It's not bad though.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good, and you stand great.
Is there an obvious size class to the mackerels or the bluefish this year? Or are they all different sizes?
It depends where you are, really. So if you're launching out of the beach, you're probably going to catch the 1-2 pounders. If you're casting out of Point Lookout, Solomon's Island, or running south towards the target ship area, I'm not saying exactly the target ship.
Now, right?
Yeah, blues. Yeah, just blues. Thanks. You're going to catch the 2 to 3 pounders. They just seem to be a little bit bigger south. The Spanish mackerel, boy, they just seem to be, man, did you get a 29-incher this year down there?
Yeah, and I'd say on average, they're probably 18 to 19, and we got a 24 casting. We got a 27 casting in the beach.
Right out of the beach.
27 and a 24 between poplar and
you just
sharks.
Don't know.
They're
thing
mixed in.
Yeah, they've got tails. They know how to use them. So they'll be at the mouth of the chop tank today. Go there tomorrow.
And that's where some folks are finding the drum after those mackerel and blue pass by.
Right.
They're blind jigging the bottom sometimes. And
another thing, bro, we both know one thing, right? If they're Spanish, keep your eye open for those reds, those bull reds. Keep your eye open. Look at your side scan. Take the time out to, somebody be around the helm. Keep an eye on that side scan as you're drifting or moving around, and look out for those bulls, because bulls love to eat Spanish mackerel.
So before we go talking too much about redfish, Kevin McMenamin from the Annapolis Anglers Club has a question, guys. Can you give us some specifics of the size and colors of spoons and the size of planters to troll for the mackerel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on, any of these topics. I'm just enthusiastic and try to learn, just like, Kevin and Dave and the rest of us. But, and I rely on a lot of other captains. But the one thing we noticed, I know that there's nothing beats sight casting a cobia Nothing beats a top water 40 rockfish. We all know it, but when you're out there on the day and you want to try something different, the trolling game for cobia is kind of like I think a newer experience. And what I've learned is, mixing hoses and spoons. And if is that for cobia he's asking, or max?
For max, but if you're out there.
So the smaller spoons this year,
double lock Clark
have been great.
Drone spoons, gold has been hot.
A number one will catch you the Big Mac though.
Yeah, if you go a little bit bigger with them spoons, like we normally have, I would say that we got. I don't know what are they number one.
Number one,
and they have
and then smaller. I wouldn't go any bigger than a number one for mackerel.
Yeah, and they got the one that we like to use, because you never know what's going to hit that thing, is the one that has the screw in the hook eyelet into the body of
a gator. I think.
Is that a gator or something? Like, I'm sure there's all kinds of people who make them, but it's in the spread. Like, I'm looking for that one.
Yeah, the all gold one's been hot.
Yeah.
And I would say one thing that I like to do for the leaders is I'll run 6 foot a leader, then a barrel swivel, then 12 foot. If you run 2 12-foot leaders, you're going to have a really hard time hand lining that fish into the boat. You're just going to lose a lot of them and get frustrated.
So what do you tell somebody when you're using them planer boards? Okay. They don't know how to fish. I mean, they jumped in our boat and they're reeling in that Spanish mackerel. The thing's flipping all over the place in the back of the boat. What do you tell them to, how do you coach them bring it?
It's more of a consistent reel. So you want that fish to kind of just water ski into the boat versus kind of aggressively fight it. I mean, with mackerel, you're not really getting a fight. It's more you're knowing where to drive and you're hitting them and you're getting them in the boat. And that's why I encourage people, once you got a few macs and you're trolling, if you're not going to eat them, please stop, because even casting for macs, it's not a catch and release fishery. Those fish give it their all.
Once you touch them, like, those scales are off of them. They've lost their immunities, and they go back into water, they're going to die. So you're going to have a handful of slime. It's not slime, they're scales. Yeah. So and beware of that. Nobody needs 15 Spanish mackerels.
And you can catch them, like we said before,
Jeez.
Any way you want, like whatever way you want. And, when they're busting the surface, I found not when they're skying out, but when they're thrashing the surface, almost like one of those tuna videos.
You see their tails and their heads come over.
That's when you're going to catch them. Cast out there, lead them a little bit, and
anticipate where they're going. Like, throw in front of them. Anticipate where they're going. Sometimes you're going to guess right, and sometimes you're going to guess wrong. Anticipate where they're going and keep them up there toward the surface. And I'll take my rain minnows and I'll just burn it like 7 cranks real hard. And then I go, I stop reeling. I go twitch, 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 and then I burn it again. And that'll work sometimes. Sometimes you just have to cast it out there and just burn it and don't stop. You get sore. Like, the next day you wake up like, man, my shoulders.
Yeah, but to be clear on this question, I usually say, to keep it simple, if you have a small boat, 2 number 2 planers, 50 and 30. So 5 and 3 bars, and then 120 and 90. And then if something starts to catch, then adjust on your number ones, 120 and 90. You can adjust after that. And then what I do to make it simple, if you have friends and family, I just get a Sharpie and I write the bars right on
them planer boards. Right. Hey, talk about leader weight. How many pounds?
I use 60 pound on the main line, and on Spanish I use 40. Yeah. And on cobia I use 60 all the way through.
Yeah, all the way through fluoro. And then I like to use 30 pound when I'm casting rain minnows, a fluorocarbon. It's still kind of light. Just warn you, it's kind of light, but 40, you're going to be a little bit better off. Check those leaders often. Well,
we found this year a few times going down to a lighter leader sometimes was the difference between
catching and not catching.
So
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
You got to watch those little leader curly cues, the Spanish and other 2.
Yeah, I wonder if they can actually really, like, I've heard they say, you get a nick in your fluorocarbon and the fish can see it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think they can after I think it matters. And the other thing is that unlike rockfish, Spanish mackerel are sight feeders, like strictly. Rockfish, they feed on scent. They love scent. They get scent. And so do cobies. But Spanish, it's all action. It's all sight, and color matters, and presentation matters. So if you're out there fishing and you see them things flipping all over the place and you're not catching, just every cast, throw it out. All right, last time I reeled it in right away. This time I'm going to go 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Then I'm going to start bringing it in. Yep. And then I'm going to be doing all that stuff with trying to get it down in the water column. Okay, mixing it up. And then I'm going to mix up my presentations. I'm going to rip it all the way in, or I'm going to rip it 7 cranks, tick, 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 let it fall, rip it again. And sometimes after you're going to find out a presentation that they're tuned in for that day. Just because it worked yesterday ain't going to mean it works tomorrow.
Yeah, so. And like a quick tip I'd give people too, if you're in a pile of rock and blues and you see Mac jumping, resist the urge to cast in the middle of the breakers and kind of stay on the outside. Absolutely. You're going to get your Macs on the outside.
They will be outside. They're not in them things. They're not competing with them small rockfish. They won't. They're not going to competing with them small bluefish. They're out there just picking them off, picking them cherries right off the tree and swimming through and having a great day.
They had the speed advantage. They can.
Oh, absolutely.
All over. So Tony Crinler's asking, can you get them on a fly? Do either of you guys have experience in the fly?
I don't.
You can. I watched people do it before. Especially if you usually one of the positive things is when we go on a red drum trip, we're going 90 miles easy that day. Yeah. And chances are you're going to run into like a field of mackerel at some point. And that's when you can definitely get that fly rod out and throw at them when they're really hitting. I mean, we've caught mackerel. I've watched people who are reeling. Everyone says rip, rip, rip. I've watched people reeling in slow and they outcatch people on the boat some days. And myself, I'm just watching it and I'm like, wait a second. That guy was barely reeling in the whole time and he's whacking them. So
I got to salute fly anglers, seriously, because I got to say that is the hardest way. I don't care what you're trying to catch fish. It is in the bay anyway. We had fly rods in the boat today. Matter of fact, we had 4 of them. But the wind conditions just, it was just enough wind and it kind of pushed the fish down today, spread them out. However that worked out, I don't know. And we wanted to throw flies, but we just couldn't. And then, it was one of those days where it's like we tried, we were running around, we were trying to find those slicks, we're trying to locate these fish. I know where they've been. I've been fishing them for weeks now, and they weren't skying, they weren't breaking, and they were just spread out. That was the day, and so we just said, okay, let's put down 4 rods. We put out 2 hoses, 2 spoons, like Travis said. Within 30 minutes, we had a 41-inch Kobe on. So. It was, and then we ended up catching a 30-inch bull today also. So, every day's different. And we like to be prepared when we go out on the water. I don't know how these fish are going to act today.
Right.
But I don't want to be standing there going,
right.
I don't know. Right. I wish I had a trolling rod, or I wish I had my jigging stick.
So Tony is in the comments here. Good answer. When's your next guide opening? And then he says, I'm in.
Right on, Tony. So thank you.
I'll connect you guys with Tony here in a text message. And my advice for the fly angler, I've tried a couple times, never hooked a Spanish. Take the line, relatively small fly. I like green and gold and silver. Any one of those 3 or combination, and then just take whatever line combination, rod combination you can cast the absolute furthest.
Small flies got to be the deal.
Well, and once your line hits, just like you were saying with a jig, you can count it down, retrieve. You can count it down, retrieve. Mm-hmm. You can do that with a fly rod.
I'll ask Jonathan Bland if he ever used to be the.
I'm sure he has.
president. I bet he's done it before.
I bet.
I watched him catch a 40-inch rockfish on the fly right next to me one day. So it was cool.
It's a matter of getting it in fast enough, and anybody that fly fishes knows it's a matter of patience in applying the technique. And current, wind, drift, they all impact things. But there's a stripping technique where you stick the rod under your shoulder, under your arm, or your where your reel is on the fly rod. Have the rod pointed towards the water, and you double hand it and bring them back as fast as you can. You can strip them in just as fast as possible. But again, it's all about getting something way out there, and that's never easy. So
yeah, it really is, especially Spanish. Spanish they're boat shy. They get it, and you've really got to cast them as far away from the boat as you possibly can. Absolutely.
There goes another recommendation from a fly angler. Small clouser on the silver side pattern.
Oh,
and he can outfish spinning rod fishermen in some situations.
There you go.
He's absolutely
man, way to go, Scott! Right on, brother.
Yeah, and Mike Dunlap is saying heavy line, heavy fly.
Right on.
And then chuck and duck. I know that technique well. It's like
we're like definitely covering the gamut today. We're going from fly fishing to spinning to trolling, like everything.
All right, so you talked about the times you would leave for that Smith Island trip. You may cover 90 miles chasing reds.
Yeah, it's easy.
We were starting to talk about finding reds under breaking schools of max and blues and maybe some rockfish.
Right.
And so are you, Travis, what kind of electronics are you running that help you get you an advantage? And what would you recommend to folks? How do they use their electronics to maybe find these fish once they found the breakers?
So I use my electronics a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard people, and it's funny, I'm not trying to go too far off, but a lot of people will kind of make comments about, well, nowadays it's easy to find fish because of electronics, but you still have to be around the fish for your electronics to help you, right? So you still have to know patterns. You still have to know how the fish behave. And it is an extra tool in your arsenal that'll help you. And I really like, side imaging. I have Simrad, and Lowrance and Simrad are almost the same. And I use that to look for bait, to look for schools. And if it's like the open water, large schools of drum, I'll try to cover area. If I see slicks, the slicks are like the sign that drum have been in the area.
Yeah.
And then, you kind of like look around, and you can't miss them when they're on the screen. And one nice thing, once you find them, they usually will eat. So, that's not a problem. I also have a really nice transducer. And we have a nice resource here to give a shout out, like to Nick Garrett, who's super busy, who doesn't probably need any business, but
no,
if you ever need questions with that, he'll take care of you with the Sonar Kings. And
he adjusted my transducer for my side scan this year, and I had my own idea what I wanted to do with it, and he said no, and he moved my transducer to a location so I can run between 14 and 20 miles an hour and read side scan.
Yeah, you need side scan really to adequately locate the schooling drum. Even with bait, it's your odds are, it improves your odds drastically to have the side imaging. I think a lot of people are learning, the value of the side imaging, over the last few years. It's funny, one of the ways me and LJ met, I was asking him about transducers because I had a 21-foot boat and I wanted a through hull transducer. And, he told me to go to BOE at the time, and that's what I did. And I loved it because, I'd be on plane going, 30 miles an hour, stop the boat on a school of rockfish. And it kind of drives me crazy. Most people are driving across the bay with no idea what's under the boat the whole way. They could have been marking bait. They could have been marking life. I have no idea. I'm like, wow, like there's so many days you just stop the boat and you're on a giant mega school of fish. Yeah. So you definitely, electronics are important. If you can afford them, have them. There's a lot of manufacturers out there that, make quality products. People like the Hummingbird.
They're all good.
Hummingbird, Simrad, it's like Ford, Chevy,
Garmin,
but
Ray Marine. The thing of it is that folks ask me, what is the best one to buy? The one that you understand.
Mm-hmm.
So buy the product that you are confident in. It's just like the lure on the end of your line. It's really the same thing. If you got a whopper plopper and it's black and green, and you're going to catch a fish on it, guess what? You're going to catch a fish on it. I'm just saying. And it's the same thing with your electronics. So get out there, use them, trust them. When you see things and you don't know what they are, stop and cast at them and then mix it up and really work those things. And then you're going to start to learn like, oh yeah, those are black sea bass, or, oh yeah, those are drum. Oh man, look at that little pot of Kobe's. Like, you're going to start to figure things out because you're going to start becoming successful, or you're going to see these little, like mine, they look like rice seeds. Man, there's a rockfish right over here, 45 feet right off the stern, or off the starboard, and you cast over there, just point at it and they cast over there. They say, well, how deep is it? And I say, I don't know. Just work that. We've been marking fish 20 feet down, let it fall, and then just work it right back to the boat. Boom.
Yeah, a lot of people right now are doing what I call sonar sight casting, for cobia, where you're working structure or ledges and you're like 20 feet off the right side and boom, you're hooked up. Yeah. So it's people are learning new things and developing new techniques to, catch fish, and some of it's getting popularized and it's bringing more people into the sport. So it's, it's definitely, a good thing to see. There seems to me at least to be, there's a lot of guys who've been targeting drum longer than me, but what I kind of notice is there's the time of year where they're schooled up and then they break up after that. And I feel like, at least in my area, we're more in the broken up part.
Yeah.
They're and they tend to spread,
for
and
the most part.
Sometimes they'll be under schools in Menhaden, and you just blind cast unless you see them in your electronics. Sometimes they're behind the mackerel and blue schools.
Yeah, they're in there.
That's what there's wolf packs, and people are having successful days.
Yeah. And we're talking like 10, 20 fish, not thousands
or less. Yeah.
Are they like down current from them? Like picking up the strap?
Or they're right. A lot of times they're right mixed in with that bait balls. And a lot of guys who've been Sharpies, who've been targeting these drum for a while, they'll see a situation and they'll try it. If they see a pile of bunker, they're going to go up to a few and check them out until they get frustrated with it, or they're successful. They'll stay with it a little longer. Yeah. Same with the blues. If you got 5 guys on the boat, somebody should have a rod down there, deep to see what's down there. But sometimes if it's one drum, you may not detect just one drum coming under the boat. You're going to see 8 or 9 come under. And one thing that I really think is important, when you're targeting drum, I really don't like the fish story about how you lost the fish. And it's because, and it's not good for the fish to go under gun. So, if you were trying to catch a mackerel and you lucked into a drum, I get that. But if you're targeting a drum, I really want to see a medium heavy rod, a 5,000, reel, 30-pound braid. And, we all know
60-pound lead
as that braid gets stripped off and that fish is a dumping line, the tighter your drag gets. So you don't want to have a break off because you're putting so much pressure, and you don't want to be adjusting your drag in the middle of a drum fight. So, make sure you're treating those fish, with the respect and having the right equipment. And then you're going to get that fish in the boat. I like using the JLS rods. They're one of the sponsors of the ladies division for Red Trout. And, you get those fish back in the boat, you're going to have time to find that school again, because the drum are escape artists. You can have, acre of drum pop up on the water.
Oh, man.
And they're gone after that. And 5 boats can't find them. So
you're looking at 360. You're like, which way did they
You don't want to have a 20-minute fight in 87-degree water and, have a hard time reviving, one of these red drum. You want to get them back in the water, and have them on their way. Right. So we have more puppies and more slot reds to catch,
So do you have a tactic, Travis, to actually track those drums?
I mean, a lot of times I feel like they're obviously following the bait. I feel like they go down tide with the bait a lot of times more often, and they follow ledges. I mean, that's just my experience. It's worked for me.
But you know what you have me do every time we mark drum? You say, mark it.
Yeah.
And then we mark it. And then when we find them again, we mark it. Right. And then we start looking at the marks that we laid down on the fish finder or the chart plotter.
It's and we're predictable pattern usually.
Well, look at here. They're kind of going that way. And they can be, a lot of times they can be predictable if you can figure out what they're doing. They just kind of move that way, and they swim fast.
I mean, sometimes they'll take off, but most of the time they follow a ledge where there's where the bait's at, and you'll find them over and over again. If your gut kind of tells you with experience, like any fishery, if you chase a rockfish school, after a while, you understand which direction that school is going to go, right?
Right.
So you can apply that to drum as well.
Or you see the bait, and then you figure out that the rockfish or the bigger ones are in front of those breakers, or the next time you encounter it next week, the bigger ones are behind it, and they're not just behind it. They're way behind it. Like I can't even see the breakers no more, far behind it. So you'll figure out how they're similar.
Until you've caught a red drum or had an experience with them before, a lot of people assume they're kind of like rockfish. They're just sitting there, they're moving, they're barely moving.
No.
The red drum move at an extremely fast rate. And where you caught them and where they're at now, they move out.
I swear, like we ran when we're finding like the massive schools last year, like we haven't seen them this year between the two of us yet. But the thousands of them, like it's just a waterfall out there, just boiling water.
It's an experience to be had.
You get in there, they don't care. Just hook me up, bring me in a boat. We'll catch however many, get them right back in the water, get some picks. And then all of a sudden it goes, it's gone.
It's amazing when you keep finding them, how far you are down the bay.
Like miles away. And all of a sudden they come right back up. Like, what?
Yeah,
how did you get over there that fast? There's like 30. I swear they swim faster than Spanish mackerels. Those big fish swim fast. And when we're in search mode, we're moving as fast as we possibly can. I use my instincts a lot. Not that means anything. Just go with your gut. You're out there, positive attitude. You're going to get them. Where are you? I want you. You're coming in my boat kind of attitude, right? And look for those slicks. And I'm smelling the water just like those birds are. I'm smelling for watermelon. If I can smell some watermelon and I'm downwind from you, I'm coming right to you. That kind of thing, and just keep moving to those pots, because at some point there was a massacre. It might not be going off while you're over it right now and you're smelling it. That's fish oil. You smell it. It's right here. You're looking at it. Find where they went, because they've already gone, and you just feel like you're chasing these guys. So you have to move quick. I don't know that stealthy is so important.
It's on the big schools. I made the mistake when I first started getting, accidentally getting a little close. Yeah. I think it helps, but when they're in those big schools, they kind of do it. I watched them. I've been the only boat on a school before, and they pop up and they go down just as fast as when it's 10 boats around them. But I don't think it's good to, no one should be, you're not advocating it, but no one should be purposely running into them or all that. No. But it's hard sometimes, they're bumping into the boat.
Just get in front of that school. You'll see the direction they're moving. Get in front of it, kill that engine, and start casting.
And, have a few rods ready. Be prepared. I can't tell you how many times, they're going to break off, and it's a really bad feeling to have reds all under the boat and you have nothing to throw. So, be prepared, have your leaders, have your rods. I mean, this time here in Chesapeake Beach, you'll never catch me without a red drum capable rod on the boat. I mean, I can think of 5 years ago, me and Adam Smith were out and we're off Breezy Point, and we see this thing on the water and we're like, what is that? And we go over there, and we were on red drum, and we only had one rod that could bring drum in. And eventually we all got to use the rod and get drum in, but every other rod was just getting spooled and broke off. Right. But we didn't care. You were hooked up but that was a lesson learned day, because, you can even have a rod that doubles as a mackerel rod that you can tie on, a lure if you're in a pinch. So, and
have several jigs pre-rigged.
I like
ready. Tie them on and get them back out there.
Yeah. I like 1.5 ounce jigs. I really like the diesel minnows because you can cast them out when they're up high and jig them off the bottom and they float upright. But really, a drum's going to eat anything you throw at it. But I just don't want to reel in something that's been bit off by a bluefish. So that's personal preference. I'm sure people say, oh, yeah, I'll catch them on whatever. And I don't disagree with that. But that's what I like to use.
Yeah, Striper Sniper's coming out with a new 10-inch worm, and it's got that thicker body. Oh my gosh, that thing is awesome, and he's got a hot pink in there.
Nice.
I got one rigged up. Yeah. What's that?
Be good for drum and cobia.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So Kevin has another question. It seems like puppy drum bite has gotten better this year with the current slot of 18 to 27, creel of 1. Pleasantly surprised by the number of bull drum that are caught and released. Any thoughts on why we're seeing an uptick in bull drum this
I
year?
think finally we're getting the results of why they're up here. They're spawning. You know, they're actually helping our fishery in the Chesapeake Bay. You know, from what I understand, the bay used to be full of red drum. I mean, it was
How many drum points?
yeah, right. It used to be full of it, right? Of them things. And the resurgence of those big bulls, as we call them bulls, coming into the bay and spawning, we're starting to see some effects of that, I believe.
I think the drum have been here. I just think there's more guys going south and target them. I think the decline of the rockfish has encouraged people to think outside the box.
Yeah.
So I think you see more people like cobias. I mean, there is, temperature rise. However you believe that's happening, it's happening. So, there is, the bay is warmer, the air is warmer. We had more 90-degree days on record, in the area. And I think some species are pushing a little more south, but cobia and drum have been around forever. It's just more of us guys are going down there and actually looking for them. And, you hear about things a little quicker now than you used to. But I think that, down in the Point Lookout area, you talk to the guys down there, like, them drum been down here. You all are just coming down here and finally catching them.
And figuring it out.
But it's a great fishery. And, I think we are seeing more puppy drum because, we are getting more drum. That conservation that we had finally kicking in. And it's nice to see that because it's a great story. And, hopefully, we can keep that going with other species, not to go off a little too deep, but it really irritates me that we can keep four speckled trout. Like, I really think that number's high, especially, when we get a lot of breeder, size specs. It just,
we do get big ones
for a person.
I had Ryan in my boat from Z-Man, a couple months ago, and he caught like a 22-inch speck. And he told me that's his personal best this year. He lives in South Carolina. I said, what? He goes, no, we don't catch them this big down here.
Well, we're lucky.
I said, wow.
We're on.
And he released it. He was proud of that thing. We got some pics. Got it right back in water.
Any species, when you're on the edge of what they can migrate, which we are for red drum.
They can tolerate it.
Mackerel. We're at the edge of what they can tolerate. So we're going to get the bigger ones.
Right.
So.
Right. And Spanish mackerel kind of the same way in Florida. I live in Florida and we didn't catch the size of Spanish mackerel that we get up here. And I have no idea why we need a 15 creel limit on those things. Like, a person? Like, what?
Yeah, they are.
Stop it, man.
I mean, they are in abundance in the ocean, but a finite amount come up the bay.
It's another story.
And then if everyone keeps 15, then when everyone goes out, it's just kind of
right.
You're kind of cutting the fun factor down for everyone. And
they're a fish best eaten fresh or smoked.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely fresh.
I like to see it.
Just cook them.
No, don't freeze them. I actually had my dad was fishing last summer, caught some Spanish. I said, "Hey, Dad, can you bring me some by the house? I want to smoke them." I don't know if he was tired or didn't hear me right or what, but he put them in my freezer whole.
Oh no!
They weren't even clean, and I'm like. For whatever reason, I couldn't even go fishing with them, and I had some work things, and I'm like, I opened this. There's I think 4 of them laying there like cordwood. And just like, gosh, these look like they need to be turned into blue marlin baits, but even that. No, they don't freeze well. They're an oily, mushy kind of consistency, but they're tremendous fresh. And I agree, Travis. I mean, folks need to use restraint in all these fisheries. We talk about technology and what effect that has on our ability to catch more fish. It's not the silver bullet, but it adds up. There's more of us, and the more of us on land affect our health of our waterways. And so we're going to impact these fish, and we have to be cognizant of that. And it's good to have these southern fish kind of continuing their march north, and who knows for how long. There's plenty of stories of different fisheries being in cycles, and I firmly believe that we can impact those cycles greatly, but some of them maybe we can't control, at least on a local level, nearly as much as we want. But I think they're all a great benefit. And to Kevin's point about the puppy drum too, it's important for folks to if they're interested, look into some of the management plans and stuff and see how quickly these fish grow and recruit into the fishable stocks. And with red drum, they grow about twice as fast as rockfish in their juvenile first 3 years. And so we'll get them into our fishery. Being on the edge of the range, they may not be able to handle the cold winters that'll push down the population.
Mm-hmm.
They'll also grow quickly through the available size range. And I know 2013 was a peak year, and some guys are talking about hopefully this fall looks like 2013 did on the eastern shore of Virginia and Tangier Sound area, and anywhere in the Bay. Really, that was a great year for puppy drum. And maybe puppy drum and trout are going to both kind of be around for a little bit if we get some warmer winters and they can sustain themselves. They need good habitat, and there is some of that in the lower portion of the bay for them to overwinter. It's just a matter of how quick it gets cold too, because if the cold snap comes quickly, these fish may slip into a little hole to protect themselves for those couple days. But if it sustains itself and stays cold, eventually they're going to freeze out of there and not be able to handle the weather. And you're talking about some of the big drum almost being kind of ignorant to what's going on around them when they're on a big feed or on top. But it's another thing with the puppy drum. I think it's important for folks to realize, being a drum species, they're sensitive to noise, probably more so than others. Their inner ear is bigger. The way their body is built is to capture that noise and understand it.
Mm-hmm. Seek it out.
Oh, in the shallows, go quiet.
For sure.
Really quiet. They're around, and they may not all be keeper size, but they're much more fun fish to catch in the shallows than anything else we have.
And they fight hard. They really do.
Yeah, everything's fun in the shallows, I find.
Yep. So what are you throwing in the shallows? You said you're catching some trout here and there. Is that shallow water stuff now, or are you finding them deeper?
Right now, they're deeper.
Okay.
We got one Wednesday in 20 foot of water on a rain minnow. So I think that the water temps right now are pretty high in the shallow waters. You better think second ledge. I know we got the tournament coming up, but I call it second ledge.
Secondary ledges.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking 9 foot deeper. Don't be afraid to be 200 yards off the shoreline and still work in that same water in areas that you normally fish for sea trout. Back off. I call it secondary ledge. You might feel silly doing it, but you
8 to 10
are
feet.
probably going to be pleasantly surprised. Like Travis said, 8 to 10 feet of water. They're going to be a little bit deeper right now.
Now, when you're working that rain minnow, are you vertical jigging, or are you casting out, counting it down?
I cast it out, and I'm just bouncing it right off the bottom.
Okay.
Just bouncing it right back to the boat, right off the bottom. Not letting it slam, not dragging it. Just not heavy twitches, not anything like that. Just working it back to the boat.
And I would want to have a small diesel minnow with one of your smaller size jig heads.
Yeah,
get away with
right.
With
As lightest weight, if you could get away with 3-inch diesel minnows, 4-inch diesel minnows. Right now, I wouldn't go 5 particularly. And another thing is that when you're using those 3 and 4-inch diesel minnows, you're going to be pleasantly surprised with the citation white perch. They're going to be hanging out in there, man. Yeah, for sure. They will. They'll be there.
Yeah, interestingly, trout can see UV light. So a lot of times you'll see people, have those swim baits that have like the chartreuse tails or like a color, and they'll say they did really good on that day. So I find the weird thing with trout, like even when I fished from in North Carolina, they might be a red jig head with a white body, and then like an hour later it's a different color. Like they really seem to change with the color compared to some other species. So don't be afraid if you're going to a spot where you think there's trout, be like a bass fisherman and maybe have a few lures.
You have to. I do.
Colors.
I have a box, a tray, right? And I just pre-rig a bunch of different stuff, different heads, different tails, colors, mix it. I love contrast. Contrast is a deal. It's rare that I'll put a hot pink diesel minnow on a pink lady jig head from G-EYE Jigs and cast that out. It worked for Ryan, but I love contrast, but I'll have them in the mix and then I just have a box of paddle tails and jig heads in it. People, if there's not something in there that they feel is it, or no one else has tried to get a new combo and cast it out there. You know, if you're not catching within 30 minutes or half an hour, mix the bag. Don't think that Slam Shady with a cherry bomb head on there is going to catch you every day you go out all day long. It won't with sea trout. So
right. What about their attitude when it comes to the tide? I've always experienced that they're not right up in the heavy flow in the more shallow water structure. But if you can go that secondary ledge concept and move off a little bit, think a little deeper. Are you finding them at a certain point of the structure? Are they sitting off it, or are they? What about the speed of the current?
Well, speaking, are they on a structure or not? Okay, so I find that your bigger trout are kind of loners. Your bigger trout, gators today are somewhere between 20 and 26 inches. Okay. And those guys are kind of loners. There might be two of them there, but the other one's skedaddled, you know? So when you get one, keep working that area, but don't stick there and move on. If they're not always on a structure, they can be off of the structure. But when you find one, like, oh, look at here. Look what I just found here. So kind of think of it that way when you're looking for the bigger trout.
Yeah, I usually just look for, the clear water,
I love current. You got to have current. If you don't have current, check out.
It's a lot easier.
Go run 10 miles, catch more current, catch an hour of current. Run 10 miles, catch an hour of current, and work it that way. And the other thing is that when I plan my day to start it out, that's the first thing I check before I leave the dock. Where is the current? When can I get there? And how's it going to affect me? Because I want to get there before peak tide so that I can fish it through the peak tide. And then I've already decided how I'm going to move up or down the bay with the tide so that I can keep chasing that current and stay in the current to catch my trout.
So I was looking up on my other screen here. The Maryland record for a spotted sea trout is 16.4 pounds.
Ooh.
Caught at Roaring Point. I'm dumb it down. That's in the Little Chop Tank, I believe.
Wow.
So
it's amazing.
Late 70s.
Wow.
Maybe a comparable era for straight bass. I don't know. There were probably decent abundance back then, but all these different predator fish the cycles are definitely real.
Yes.
To give you a comparison, the Florida state record is 17.7 pounds.
Ooh.
And if
you think they have more, right?
Well, it's just a touch bigger, yeah. And then it looks like, if this article's correct, 16-pound, 37-inch is the Texas world record. So
wow,
we're a little bit heavier than Texas. I mean, we rank there. It's just a matter of these weather cycles and what we do to our poor bay with habitat and everything and cold winters. But I'm excited about these fish, and that's part of what really inspired the Red Trout Tournament. To have some fun out there chasing these fish, to give the rockfish a break, catch all these other Spanish, blues, cobia, ribbon fish. I hear they're great little grilled.
Right. Yeah.
Enjoy them while they're here, So,
the one of the things that it just seems like I want to personally go out there and target those flounder. Like, I know they're here, and we've caught two, and but I've never spent my day targeting flounder this year. It's like, oh yeah, hey LJ, can you go fish with me? We're gonna do this, or I'm like, okay, well, yeah, sure, I'll go. But flounder are here, and also black sea bass are here. These species are available to us, and they're fun. That is, I guess, with the rockfish decline, that's one of the things that I'm motivated to do is actually target. Like, Travis, when we catch rockfish, they're like bycatch to us. We're
not on big ones right now in our area too.
No,
but yeah, it is.
We haven't been on big ones since like June.
But right now it is funny because we're looking for other species right now, and if someone catches a rockfish, it's kind of like, I remember we were at Breezy Point 2 years ago catching drum, and somebody caught a 30-inch rockfish in the middle of the summer on the boat, And the disappointment on
Yeah,
their
I
face
know.
that it wasn't.
It's what we hear all the time. Oh man, it's a rockfish.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't wait to get my picture with that flounder. That was as big as the palm of my hand. You know what I'm saying? I was so proud of that.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with black sea bass. You know, I know they're like 8 inches, 6 inches, but I'll tell you what, that black sea bass that is 9 inches long in the Chesapeake Bay, it's a 3 to 4 year old fish. They grow very slow in the bay. They don't grow quickly. They're not like black sea bass that you're going to catch up north of here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, take pride in that catch. That is a quality fish.
So who's going to be the first to catch a black sea bass off the new reef we just deployed July 29th up north of Chesapeake Beach? Is
Oh, you're talking about the Chesapeake Beach?
Yeah, the brand new reef. Just in the water.
That's probably going to be a really good perch spot too.
Yeah. We need that habitat over there. We really do. You know, I can't tell you, like all.
There we go.
I'm spot burning. Look, I'm allowed to.
Dude!
we built this reef recently here with partnerships and friends, and I'm spot burning and sharing it because, Travis, I consider you the reason why that reef's in the water right now. And it's all because in your normal day job, you reached out to me and said, hey, I want to build reef balls at this outdoor school where I work in Prince George's County. And that got the ball rolling for more reef ball work that CCA was involved in the lower, southern Maryland, Calvert County and south. COVID got in the way of what's this exciting project we have coming up where we're going to build reef balls with every fifth grader in Calvert County. And we started looking at different partnerships and different opportunities, places to deploy them. And Travis helped introduce us to Jay Berry, who was messaging earlier on here, and Seabox and John Bacon in the town of Chesapeake Beach. And we all worked together with Chesapeake Bay Foundation, part of the Chesapeake Oyster Alliance, and put 78 reef balls in this reef site here. I think this is correct. This isn't the Seabox reef, right?
I'm trying to look.
It's not showing. One of them's not showing here. The Old Rock is not showing.
Oh, yeah. The other one's not on there. I don't see it.
This should be
far from there.
Yeah, it's
just
just
south.
Yeah, so we'll leave that one secret. But this one is one of the Maury sites, and it's in the oyster sanctuary. These reef balls have oysters attached to them, 78 mini bay size reef balls. Right. And so they're right here. I think right about in this section of the reef, and we're close to publishing the final lat long for that. But I'm going to challenge you boys to go out there and catch some perch, some sea bass, whatever might be down there. Heck, there's probably flounder on that ledge.
Well,
hey, Dave, can you zoom in on that again, brother?
On that reef?
Yeah.
I will tell you too, the Tillman Reef's been
so check this out. All right, so you see this reef. This is what I like about that location. So from personal experience. All right, so you see the dark shaded area and you see that point right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good spot early summer when it's hot. And then you see that little nook for the lighter blue, the lightest blue color there that comes in. Great area to troll in, to drift in there and catch white perch. And you see the points that are in there. And now you've got a reef on top of that.
You just said trolling for perch?
Yeah, trolling for perch. But jigging for him in there. Oh, man. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, man. Travis mentioned the Tillman Reef.
Yeah.
Right over here.
That end has been... We've stopped there a bunch of times.
Yeah, it's been good. It's treated us well this year.
Yeah, and there's 388 CCA built reef balls here on the southwest corner. They're in 4 different lines that go east-west. There's also a lot of other material here, and we are very, very close to another deployment in the mid-bay. It's either going to go at Tillman or the Clint Waters Memorial Reef here at Cook's Point, right here. We're going to deploy 45 reef balls built by the Midshore Fishing Club, 60 of them built by CCA, and we're hopefully going to get a truckload of reef pyramids donated from the Ocean City Reef Foundation. And we'll all be working together, hopefully in the first 2 weeks of September, to splash that. And we didn't have a chance to get everything in the water that we built for the Janes Island Reef down in Crisfield. So this reef down here, give folks an idea of where that stuff happened 2 weeks ago. There's the site here.
Place to fish.
Yeah.
And over on this east edge is where we put them. As soon as we got the right water depth, they were deployed there, and I'll have more information on that. But we're adding more reef balls and probably more reef pyramids here before the winter's starts. And then I just talked to Monty Hawkins from Ocean City Reef Foundation yesterday, and this Tangier Sound, the triangle-shaped reef here, which has been named in honor of Captain Curtis Johns, who was a formative leader in reef developing the reef program, who passed away. There's a reef on the western side of this, and some other structure throughout the site. But Monty and I are talking about getting some big concrete pipes that are cabled together in 3 pieces, and create some really good 3D structure there for folks to fish. I know it's been a popular spot in the fall. And so that's what our habitat program's doing. And guys like Travis have helped inspire a lot of this work in their region, and just like the guys in the lower shore. So
boy,
can't help but
that's fantastic. Those reefs hold so many varieties of species. It's crazy, from Spanish mackerel to flounder to white perch, you name it. There's even tog on those things. We're talking about another species nobody even tries to target in the bay, and they're here. I've seen people catch tog right here on the jetties in Chesapeake Beach in October. Like, what are they doing here? They're here.
Well, here's
sorry, I should have gave that up, huh?
No, it's all good. There's a new secret every day.
That's right.
So Kevin says this. We're gonna have answer Kevin's question here, and then try and wrap this up. Kevin is a big fan of G-EYE jigs. When do you guys recommend a skirted jig versus a non-skirted jig?
Well, with the skirted, if you're using a smaller bait, the skirt will give it a little bit of a larger profile, and it'll slow the fall.
And they're feeding on bunker.
Yeah, if they're on bunker, that skirt gives it just a little bit more profile, slower fall. And then a lot of times, if I'm using something like a Streak XL size jig or like a 10-inch BKD, would be the same
Bustin'
idea.
Baits fat boy.
I usually won't use a skirt because I feel like the profile is large enough, but a smaller bait, I'll put a skirt if I'm kind of trying to in between the size.
Yeah. Or if you just want to add contrast to your bait, if you got a green, chartreuse bait, put a white skirt on there, or vice versa. I got a white bait, I want to put it, or a hot pink bait, and want to put a chartreuse skirt on there. Another thing it does, it changes up the presentation. So it'll kind of slow it down. And truly, when you're fishing for rockfish, the weight of the head matters. Sometimes it's 5/8, and you're fishing 3/4, you're catching fine. You're catching 3/4, catching, and like they quit biting. Put a 5/8 on, and you got that skirt going. All of a sudden, it's like boom, 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 and it really matters. 1/8 of an ounce. It makes a difference. So it's presentation. That's the way the skirt matters.
Now, do you think a skirt is affecting? So if you just had jig heads from, let's say, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1 ounce, and then you had a skirt to, let's say, a 1 ounce, is it now acting like a 3/4? Is it acting like 7/8?
It slows it down just a little bit. I'm gonna say that it takes off about a 1/4 ounce of weight from your fall.
I would say that definitely happens when I'm using the larger body Z-Mans that I use a lot because they're buoyant. So if I use a Streak XL on a 1 ounce, I treat it like it's a 3/4 ounce jig. And I think the skirts kind of do the same thing for the other plastics. So it's something to consider, in your head, the fall rate.
Right. Speaking of that, I think there's something in the same vein here. So if you're using, first of all, LazyTech floats. It's like putting a bobber on your jig head.
You're talking about a Z-Man.
Yeah, that's a Z-Man. LazyTech is Z-Man. Plastisol baits like Bustin' Baits or Culprit or whoever, what happens is they'll sink faster. So that's a different presentation. So when you consider putting on that jig head and you want it to get it down, so let's just say I'm using a 3/16 ounce, G-EYE jig, and I put a Z-Man on there, it's going to float. So what happens on a 3/16 ounce with a 3-inch diesel minnow, the head is straight down and the tail straight up on the bottom. Mm-hmm. You put a plastisol bait on, it's going to get down and it's going to have a different presentation as it comes through the water. And sometimes that matters. Sometimes they want that bait to be vertical, and then sometimes they want that bait to be horizontal as it comes through the water deeper and maybe a little bit faster.
Mhm.
So, speaking of skirts, those are presentations and profiles and things that will make a difference for you catching or not catching one day. So keep it mixed up.
So the easy story, I guess, for Kevin is I'd probably go out, and if I wasn't really dialed in and I was going to a spot for like the first time in a week, I'm not out there every day, I'd probably have one unskirted lure with a large bait, one with a medium with a skirt, and one with a medium size, like 7-inch without a skirt. And, if that skirt is out catching the others, I'm not too proud. I'm going to switch type thing. So have a few ready to go and see which one's giving you the most success that day. I think on suspended fish, the skirt helps you out too, especially if you're really not that great knowing where your lure's at in a water column. It's going to help you on that slower fall. So.
And skirt's going to be in my boat come this fall. There's no question. No question.
Fantastic. So any one more? How about one more from each of you? One more tip or tactic that somebody can use to get on redfish this late summer.
Oh, redfish. Okay. Well, I'll give you a tip today. What worked today? How's that tip?
Sounds great.
A hot pink spoon. It was about 3 inches long, and it was on a number 1 planer board, and I'd say 10 bars. That pulled in the only puppy I even heard of today. So,
all right,
not a puppy, but a bull. It was 30 inches.
I guess I would talk to my folks who are fishing a little more, northern. Don't rule out, looking at bait balls and looking at like what we talked about earlier. When you have the breakers, the blues and Max, don't be afraid after they pass by. Like, how we were taught to catch the bigger rockfish, right? You let that school of rockfish go by. Don't chase the school. Wait a few minutes for those bigger fish that are down deep feeding on the scraps. Well, the little wolf packs of drum are doing the same thing. So let that school of Max, blues, whatever go by. Be patient. Don't chase that school for a second. Hang out and just jig the bottom. Even if you're jigging blind, a lot of people I talked to connected, they didn't see anything on their screen. And those drum a lot of times are like a teenagers at a school party. You slide a pizza across the floor, someone's gonna pounce on that pizza. It's not gonna be sitting there too long. So they'll oblige you when they're in the area. They'll hit that lure.
Yeah. So I would like to, something I always say in my seminars and things like that when I'm at tackle shops and things is that when you're on the water, be kind to each other. Introduce yourself. If you get an opportunity, go meet each other. If you're in tackle shops, introduce yourself, local shops and things like that, because at some point you're going to be next to each other out on the water and you can help each other catch more fish if you work together, not against each other. And even like today, when I was at Smith Island, there was the gentleman, he was out in his park by himself. I know he was trolling for Kobe's, and we met him on the island. He had lunch, and we just finished our lunch, and we're going back out. So we stopped to just say, "Hey, man, how's it going? How did you do?" And we saw you. We were really impressed. And he goes, "Yeah, I got a small Kobe, and I was such a challenge." And so we just had a conversation. Have those conversations on the water like that. Be positive with each other. We are my best friends They come from the fishing community. There's great people in the fishing communities, and guess who's in those boats out there fishing next to you? Those people. Treat them that way, because that's who they are. That's who we are.
I tell people all the time in my line of work, especially in the fisheries policy side of things, that we're only effective if we meet people where they are and realize that we were probably once there too, or maybe in the future. I mean, we're all free spirits to think what we want and try different things. And but if we're fishing, we should be in it together. And the social media and the political world and the news and crazy stuff.
Don't get sucked up into that, man.
Like fishing, ignore all that, leave that frustration on land.
That's not why I'm out there, Like I had a dude, I was over off of Black Walnut Point. I'm 100 feet from the rip, the rocks. Okay, I can eat. I'm casting to it. I'm casting the other side of my boat. And some guy comes in his boat between me and the rocks, and I can't cast over there. And he puts a spot lock down. I'm like, oh man, I got my spot locked down. And I didn't get mad. I didn't yell him. He waved at me. I waved back. I'm like, okay, it's time to move. I mean, you just had to be that way. You know, the guy, I know, like, we would be at the bar having a beer one day, you know, nice person. I'm sure he was, but you just don't get all testy and things like that when you're on the water. Things happen. Just understand.
Absolutely. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And,
Thank you, Dave.
you.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Folks, remember to one place, Teacher's Pet Fishing here on Facebook, and then G-EYE Again, you can buy these at a lot of great local tackle shops, Eastern Shore and Western Shore.
Yeah.
And then Travis has a great Instagram page as well. The Real Travis Long on Instagram, some great pictures of beautiful fish. And I hope to see you boys on the water soon.
Yes, sir.
I'll
Me
be
too.
down at Buzz's Marina again for the Red Trout Tournament. So, folks, remember, check that out. Sign up for it today. If you sign up right now, fish tomorrow, redfish and trout you catch. You're just turning in a picture, letting us know you caught those fish as a registered angler, and you get a random prize. So,
Perfect.
Nice.
go ahead and do that. Just a little extra fun to enjoy the rest of the summer. I hope that the water's cool at the right level this year, and we just have a nice, long, protracted
It would be nice to have this trout for another year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right, man. Well, thank you very much. You have a great night, and everybody check them out and support these local anglers that are, just love being on the water just like you.
For sure.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.